As John mentioned there, initially the IDF did decline to comment, but I'm very pleased to say we're joined now by Israeli government spokesperson Avi Hyman. Avi, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Wilfred. Thanks for having me on.
What is your reaction to the testimony that we heard there, in particular from Ahmed and Buthaina, who are 11 and 9 years old, respectively?
So that was a heart-wrenching report by anyone's judgment. I can't confirm any of the details, and it just shows the hell of war, the war that was forced upon us by Hamas on October 7th when it plowed through our borders, killing children in front of their parents and parents in front of their children, beheading Israelis, slitting the throats of children, opening fire deliberately on babies' cribs. This is a brutal enemy that is entrenched and has entrenched itself for the last 16 years under homes, mosques, UN facilities and schools. We are in a situation that is extremely difficult, whereby we need to go after the terrorists, the Hamas terrorists, while avoiding civilian casualties, when the Hamas terrorists are doing their utmost to ensure that the maximum amount of civilian casualties on their side. Like one British military expert put it, they're not just using their people as human shields, they're using them as human sacrifices.
No, I don't think there's much doubt about what happened on October the 7th and that it justifies a significant Israeli response. Of course, what we're now talking about 4 months on is the tactics employed and the effectiveness and proportionality of that response. In particular, just to go into the details a bit more, Mohammed Khattab, who was killed, was said to be waving a white flag and was said to try and warn the IDF via his brother, a doctor with the ICRC, in the lead-up. What do you make of that?
Well, I watched the report and I said, I don't know the details, I can't confirm any of it. What I can say is that one of the children in that report said very clearly that the IDF told him, gave him a white flag and told him to walk down Salahuddin Street.
That was afterwards, though.
Okay, Salahuddin Street was the main street, the safer corridor, where we evacuated Khan Yunis from. We evacuated Khan Yunis and gave very clear information to the people there that that was a war zone and that they needed to come out of harm's way. That is something that other armies don't do. We also distributed maps of all of Khan Yunis and said exactly where we'll be fighting and when. No other army in the world would do that. Now, we know that Khan Yunis is the home of Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, the man that instructed the people to invade our borders on October 7th and started the war. The same man who we put out CCTV of just yesterday, who is hiding in tunnels, living in the lap of luxury, who we'd missed by possibly minutes, so much so that he left a safe with millions and millions of shekels in it. And, you know, the one thing that stuck with me when I saw those videos of his luxury abode underground, deep under Gaza, while his people are suffering, was the number. I counted about five. I counted about 5 bottles of aftershave. So while the people of Gaza are suffering, while the children are getting caught up in the crossfire potentially, he is underground living in the lap of luxury, while the other 2 leaders of Hamas are living in Qatar. They're billionaires, and they could stop this war in a minute by putting down their arms.
I want to come to Yahya Sinwar and those images that you're referencing. We're showing them on the screen now towards the back half of this interview, if that's all right. You mentioned watching the report that you can't confirm or deny any of the details. We did deliver to the IDF a huge amount of this detail, all of it, more than was just in that package, and we didn't get a response. Will you investigate all of these details and get back to us by the end of the week, the end of the month, with a clear response?
I can tell you that when your producer gave me the details, I forwarded them to the IDF. I checked if they had any response. There is a war going on. War is hell, and we will endeavor to investigate each and every situation. Again, I can tell you that you're talking about a place that should have been evacuated by then, a place that is a hotbed of Hamas activity, and the very hometown of Yahya Sinwar.
I understand we're in the middle of a war, and there's a lot.
I have asked for more information, and I will endeavour to get you that information.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to those details when we do get them. Why don't we talk then about the point you just mentioned, that Khan Yunis is a war zone and warnings were given. Is the same scale of warning being given to the people of Rafah ahead of a potential ground invasion at the moment?
Well, at the moment, the Prime Minister has instructed the IDF to prepare an evacuation plan for Rafah. You see, there are those that say that we shouldn't go into Rafah. We heard exactly the same things about Khan Yunis, because there are terrorists that are deeply embedded under civilian populations and within the civilian population. We want to limit civilian casualties. Well, we had the same warnings in Khan Yunis, and we evacuated Khan Yunis. We will do that in Rafah. But if we don't go into Rafah, let me make it very clear. If we don't go into Rafah, we will lose this war. We have taken out 18 out of 24 Hamas battalions, and there are 4 more in Rafah. We need to go through strategically in a way that no other army has done in the history of modern warfare and take out those Hamas terrorists. We need to do this for the future of the children of Israel and the future of the children of Gaza. We need to stop Hamas.
I understand that, but do you accept that at this point in this war, the trade-offs you face, I'm not talking about what happened on October the 7th and the atrocities that Israel faced that clearly justify the grounds for Israel to make a response, but I am talking about the effectiveness and proportionality of the actions that you're taking. I mean, you mentioned there are fewer Hamas battalions left to eradicate. Meanwhile, there are many hundreds of thousands more people concentrated in a smaller area in Rafah that you're wanting to potentially launch a broad ground invasion to try and attract. That trade-off, do you accept, is increasingly unattractive?
No, I reject the premise of the question, because we evacuated almost all of northern Gaza at the beginning of the war. Then we evacuated central Gaza. So we're basically doing the same thing in a different area. We know how to do it. We've done it in the past. We will work with the international community and international organizations to do it in the best way. As the war has proceeded, we have learned the lessons day by day. And as I said, military experts, including British military experts, have said that the IDF has gone out of its way in a way that no other army has done in history to avoid civilian casualties. Our war, our fight, is not with the people of Gaza. It is with the people of Hamas. And it is the most justified war in recent history.
I don't doubt that Hamas are purposefully using civilians to shelter behind. I don't doubt the appallingness of that. But it is a fact, whether based on your explicit warnings to people in Gaza City and then Khan Yunis, or implicitly the only option that people had, that they have moved south. Where should they go next?
Well,
we are in a different position.
I said, very, very clearly, I didn't mince my words. The Prime Minister has instructed the IDF to make a plan to evacuate the people of Rafah. Now, that hasn't been implemented yet. Just like the beginning of the war. At the beginning of the war, we were told, don't go into Gaza. Don't go into Gaza. It's a hotbed. They're embedded everywhere. We went into Gaza. They told us, don't go into the tunnels because they're booby trapped. We went into the tunnels. They said, don't go into the hospitals that had become terror bases for Hamas. We went in and there was limited, minimal civilian casualties. We will work in the most strategic, optimum, and moral way to go after Hamas and limit civilian casualties.
I guess it'd be open to debate if there have been minimum civilian casualties. But is this a pledge, therefore, that there won't be a ground invasion into Rafah until a significant plan is enacted, which, by what you're saying, is weeks away, not days away?
No, I'm not suggesting timing of anything. The IDF will attack at the time when it sees fit, and I won't broadcast timings of potential military activity on Sky News. What I will say is that we're facing a brutal enemy that we need to go after. We need to win this war for the future of our children. And I can tell you that we have already killed over 12,000 Hamas terrorists. We have put out of action over 20,000, meaning killed detained or injured, and we will continue until we destroy Hamas. And like my Prime Minister said, we're not talking about half of Hamas. We're not talking about 3/4 of Hamas. We're talking about all of Hamas. And this is a fight against an ideology. The same ideology that perpetrated the 7/7 attacks on London is the same ideology that perpetrated the 7th of October attacks. They seek to destroy all of Israel, to perpetrate genocide on all of my people in Israel, and then to go after every last Jew everywhere in the world. That's not my words. That's the words of their charter. And straight after October 7th, they said they will do it again and again and again. But I've got news for you. We won't let them do that.
I understand that, and I do want to move into Yahya Sinwar in just a moment. But so this is my final question on this, which is, you said we will eradicate Hamas regardless. I mean, do you accept, though, that there is a trade-off if you get down to having 1% of Hamas left, but a full evacuation of Rafah is not possible, and that it will cause hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties, that is not worth pursuing?
You're creating a whole entire world of hypotheticals. I'm telling you.
I'm not, though. I'm not really. But with the greatest respect, I am exaggerating the point, but it is legitimate. We said this in the package. Our analysis of satellite imagery says that 175,000 buildings have been destroyed or damaged in the north. In the south specifically, at least half of Khan Yunis has been destroyed. It is a fact that over 1 million people are concentrated in a specific area in the south, with fewer, albeit too many, Hamas operatives now there as the prize for invading in that. The trade-off is less attractive, and there must be a limit. Do you accept to that trade-off becoming so unattractive that it is not worth pursuing, or not?
It is a fact that Hamas has created a network of terror tunnels, 1.5 sizes larger than the London Underground, beneath civilian populations. So we will need to destroy that tunnel network. That's what we've been doing, and that's what you've seen. Okay, now we will go when the time is right after Hamas, wherever they are. We need to go after the perpetrators of the October 7th massacre and ensure that never again can they perpetrate that type of attack on our people.
OK. I don't know if that answered the question, but I appreciate your response. Finally, I know I said I'd get to this. What can you tell us about the location of Yahya Sinwar and whether you think it's realistic that you will be able to capture him based on the footage you released in the coming days or weeks?
Well, the objectives of our operation haven't changed from day one: to destroy Hamas and to bring home every one of the hostages. There's 134 hostages still in Gaza, and we will bring every last one home. We released that footage of Yahya Sinwar on the run. He is running from place to place. We will find him. That is part of the objective of the war, and he is the man that is responsible for all of the destruction in Gaza and for everything that happened on October 7th, together with his fat cat bosses in Qatar, who are also responsible. So we will continue on with our mission. We will destroy Hamas, and we will bring home all of the 134 hostages.
Avi Hyman, we thank you for your time today, and we do look forward to your response following the investigation and more details when you have them based on that report that we played earlier. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.